Sorry, we'll get back to the right slide here. All right. Still talking about phonemes. A phoneme is the smallest linguistic unit of sound that can still signal a difference in the meaning. So there are only 26 letters in our English alphabet, but there are actually 43 different sounds we can make in our English language. And so that's the difference. There's sounds that can signal a difference in meaning, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a letter. And so you have to separate how something sounds as that smallest phoneme versus letters, or kind of the smallest written symbol that can signify meaning. And there's some phonological rules to language. Language is rule governed or has certain constraints. There are phonotactic constraints, and that refers to which sounds can be combined and cannot be combined together. And then rules that tell when and how vowels must be used and how sound combinations are produced. We're not together, but I'm going to pose this question. I want you to do some critical thinking and then we'll come back. But what experiences have you had with speech recognition, such as when you called a doctor's office or an airline? I want you to think about times where you have called someone and you might have found it's difficult to understand them, and what you think was in play that made it difficult for you to understand them. As you've reflected in those few moments, I'll give an example. I think that sometimes it is hard to understand different accents, or if someone, their first language is different. And if you think about it just from the strict viewpoint of language, not in a stereotypical kind of statement, but if you just look at the science of linguistics, if they learned a different set of sounds first, oftentimes they don't have the exact same set of sounds that we do in English. So if they pronounce certain consonants or vowels uniquely, because that's how their first language system, that's how they were taught, they're kind of using their own group of sounds that they know to produce the English language, is going to sound different. Just like if I, as an English language, that's my native language, when I make my feeble and weak attempts to speak Spanish or German, which I know very little of both, I'm sure that to a native German speaker or Spanish speaker, they're thinking, that's not exactly how you say that, but that's her sound system. That's just the sound system I already know. So it's not that you can't be taught those things, but oftentimes that's where speech recognition comes in. That can be difficult for people is if people don't have the same sound system. So we can share an alphabet, but we still have to share the same sound repertoire, if you will. Moving on to morphology. The study of words and how they are formed. Morphological rules determine how sounds can be put together to make words, and they kind of govern the structure of a word. Think of morphology as like a sister to grammar or syntax. Grammar kind of tells you how you can put sentences together in paragraphs. Morphology is just like the smaller version where it's telling you how you can put words together. So not entire thoughts, phrases, sentences, paragraphs, but just a single word. What are the rules for how words are made? Here's another video, so I'm going to stop and let you watch it. They do a nice job of just explaining a couple different types, and this was in your key vocabulary of a free morpheme versus a bound morpheme. So I'm going to stop here again, and I'll be back.